here's a detailed breakdown of my most viral planter ever. Hey guys, it's Nikki with Nikki Plants Things. I wanted to show you today one of my very favorite planting hacks I use all the time. It's completely taken over the internet. I've been so surprised at how many people love this planting hack. It is great for people with dexterity issues. They don't have to dig holes anymore. It's my favorite to use for a more visual layout of the plants I'm going to be using to get better spacing between the plants when I am making a planting arrangement. Starting at the beginning here, I'm using a pretty large plastic planter. It's 22 inches across the top and I think about 9 inches deep. So it's big and pretty shallow. These are the plants I chose. I actually planted this flower pot for my mom for Mother's Day. She grew up in Hawaii for a little while, and so I wanted to give her kind of a tropical feel. So these are the plants I chose. Whenever I'm planting a flower pot, I always go into it with a plan. So I go to the store and I look at all the flowers that they have available, and I kind of pick and choose and plan out my flower pot ahead of time so I have a vision of what it's going to end up looking like. So this flower pot does have a drainage hole in the bottom. You can see it right at the beginning here. So I'm going to start filling this pot with soil, but I'm not going to fill it all the way yet. I'm just going to put a little bit in the bottom, and I'm going to focus on the depth of it a lot. So I'm going to kind of create a shallow base of soil, and then I'm going to leave enough space for the nursery pots to be about the same height as the rim of the planter. So that's what I'm doing here, just adding a little bit of soil in the bottom. You'll see in this video that I oftentimes keep my potting soil in a bin. I just think it's way easier to deal with and handle. I like that I can mix in any additional nutrients or peat moss or anything in with it. Makes it a lot easier to handle, and it also I love that I can take a smaller planter or pot and stick it in the bin with my soil, and when I fill it, if the soil falls out, it falls right into the bin and there's less cleanup on my part. So that's one of my favorite things about that method. I go through a lot of soil, and so it's nice to just be able to put the ends of bags all together and kind of mix it up, and it's just easier to work with. So here I'm taking out all of the plants from their nursery pots, and I really try to keep the roots out of the sun and out of the heat for as long as possible. So you'll see me, I'm gonna take the nursery pots, set the plant to the side, and put the nursery pot in my planter. And this will become kind of a template for where I'm going to put these plants to fill this planter. Oh, right here I found a slug in my plant. Oh, I hate slugs. What do you do when you see slugs? I always just smash them because they eat all my plants and it makes me angry. So kill the slugs if you find any. So you can kind of see it'll look a little bit like a puzzle. I obviously had a vision. I always try to get thrillers, fillers, and spillers in my planters if I can. So my thriller is going to be something in the middle, super exciting, kind of flashy and eye-catching. That will be the thriller. Then the fillers come in and they fill in the space, and I usually use quite a few of those. And then my spillers will be probably the shortest plant, but also a viney plant that will hang over the edge and look really beautiful as it drapes over the edge, kind of spilling out of the pot. So one of the trickiest things about this method is remembering which plant goes where. So once again, always having a plan and a vision of what you're doing. I take a really good mental note of which plants go where so I can remember which plant belongs to which pot. Something to note is that not all the nursery pots are the same height. Some are the shorter square ones, some are a bigger one, so you kind of just have to adjust it as you go. So once you have all of the nursery pots in the planter in the location you want it, then you grab more soil and you can dump it in. Being very careful that you're not knocking over your pots. Sometimes they'll fall over, you just kind of have to pick them up and place them back where you want them to be. You're really trying to fill those spaces around the nursery pots. My preference is to just fill the pot with it as you go, because then you'll get the exact shape that you're needing, and it works out perfectly in the end. So here I just pick up my bin and I dump it slowly around and in all of the nursery pots until that soil gets to the height of the nursery pots and almost the rim of the planter. For me, I just generally use like a generic indoor-outdoor potting soil. I'm not too picky because you can add so much to it. Adding fertilizer or plant foods or anything like that can bring any soil back to life and give your plants the nutrients they need. So here I'm breaking up any large chunks I find, and I'm really trying to spread it out and fill in those spaces around the pots again. Trying to bring the pots to the height, to the right level. So on those shorter pots, I will add some more soil underneath just to make sure that they're at the right height. And then once you have the soil to the right level, you'll bring out your hose and you will soak that baby a ton. In this video, I could have soaked this thing so much more. You can tell that some of the dirt didn't get wet, but the wetter the dirt, the better it will hold the shape of the nursery pot. So it's really important. If you have dry dirt and you don't add enough water, the holes will cave in and it won't work super well. So make sure that you get your soil really, really wet. And sometimes I like to pull it out and check a little bit. If it's still pretty dry, I'll continue to water until the soil is soaked. Once the soil is completely wet, then I will go ahead and pull out all those nursery pots, leaving the perfect puzzle holes to stick my plants in. You want to be really careful to not collapse the holes, and I usually just take out the nursery pot and set it to the side for me to deal with that soil later. I do not waste it. I set it to the side. We'll talk about that in a minute. Once you have the nursery pots out, you can start placing your plant, the correct plant, in the correct hole. So for my thriller here, I chose a Majesty Palm. Normally people have this like as an indoor houseplant, but I chose to use it as my thriller in this pot because it's beautiful and big and exciting. I knew it was gonna grow really big, and that's okay with me. I'm happy to repot plants as they need it. So the centerpiece of my planter is the Majesty Palm, so you'll see me placing that in here. I loosen the roots a little bit as just before I put it in to encourage the roots to spread and grow healthy. This pink one here is called a Rio Diplodenia. It got mistaken so many times for a plant called Mandevilla, but this is actually Rio Diplodenia. It has trumpet-like flowers and they are absolutely beautiful. It had the perfect tropical feel I wanted, so that's why I chose this plant. It's kind of a second thriller and also a filler that I chose. Mandevilla grows in a viney-like way, and so a lot of the times those need a trellis, but Diplodenia grows more shrub-like. They still kind of set off some tendrils and stuff, but it's more shrub-like, and so I didn't feel the need to put a trellis in this pot. This is probably one of my favorite flowers I've used in this planter just because it is so vibrant and beautiful and tropical. So that one I'm placing in the center right by the Majesty Palm. I love my pots very full, and so I pack lots of plants in there. This plant here is called Lantana. It's a little bit of a woodier plant, and I just think it's beautiful. It has pretty much globes of little tiny flowers that all grow together, and this one is called Sunrise Lantana, and so it starts from kind of a reddish pink and goes to orange and then eventually yellowy in the middle, and it is absolutely beautiful. This pot, I actually noticed at the nursery that it had 2 plants in it, and so I was able to save some money by getting that nursery pot with 2 plants and splitting them before I planted it in the planter. That way I could have Lantana on both sides of the planter with only buying 1 pot. This one here is called Sweet Alyssum. It comes in a couple different colors, but this is white, and I love these little tiny baby flowers that this one puts off. It's beautiful and is a great filler for any pot. It does well with a lot of consistent water. So that's why I chose this one to act as a filler. and be one of my shorter plants to fill in the space. So I put this in a few places just around the planter to make a more balanced look. This one here is a calabrachoa, or also called million bells. So the two calabrachoas, Holy Cow and Lemon Slice calabrachoa, were my spillers. This is the other half of my lantana that I had pulled out, just to give it a more balanced look of having the lantana on both sides. Here's a close-up of these beautiful flowers. It's so hard to choose a favorite. They're all so pretty, but I love that they tie each other in with the pinks and the oranges and the yellows and the whites. And my mom absolutely loved this planter. It was the perfect Mother's Day gift for her. So I actually put it in my car and I drove it over to her house, and she was so proud of it all summer long. It was beautiful. We got comments on it all the time. Make sure after you plant your flowers that you water very thoroughly to help your roots to soak up that water and help the plants not be too shocked. Hopefully, planting and transplanting is hard on plants, but they usually figure it out. So give your plants a big huge drink at the end and enjoy your planter. Make sure you focus on giving consistent water, and also with flowering plants, try to use a flower boosting fertilizer, usually at least once a month during the growing season, to help encourage lots of flowers blooming all summer long. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and as always, happy planting, enjoy the summer, stay cool, and enjoy those beautiful flowers.